When a ship goes down, most people imagine the greatest danger is the sinking itself. The tearing metal, the freezing water, the chaos. But survival experts know something quieter and far more unsettling. For many victims of maritime disasters, the decisions that seal their fate are not made during the catastrophe. They are made afterward, in the silence, in the drifting, in the long hours when the ocean stretches endlessly in every direction. Because at sea, small mistakes do not stay small for long. The first mistake often begins within minutes. Panic. It is the most natural human response to sudden disaster, and one of the most dangerous. Panic burns energy the body cannot spare. It clouds judgment. It turns manageable situations into fatal ones. Survivors who thrash in the water, who scream until their voices fail, who fight the rhythm of the sea instead of conserving strength, often exhaust themselves long before rescue is even possible. The ocean is patient. It does not need to overpower you. It simply waits for fatigue to do its work. Another quiet mistake is abandoning flotation too soon. Debris fields from sinking vessels often scatter life jackets, broken panels, cargo, and fragments capable of keeping someone alive for hours, sometimes days. Yet again and again, survivors are overcome by the urge to swim, toward distant lights, toward shapes on the horizon, toward hope that may not exist. What many fail to realize is that distance at sea is profoundly deceptive. Something that appears a few hundred yards away may in reality be miles. Cold water steals strength quickly. Even strong swimmers rarely last as long as they believe they will. And once exhaustion sets in, returning is no longer an option. Survival experts repeat a simple principle: stay with what floats. The ocean rewards conservation, not ambition. Then there is the mistake of underestimating exposure. Wind, more than water, is often the true thief of body heat. Wet clothing accelerates cooling. Spray erodes warmth. Nightfall sharpens the danger. Hypothermia does not always arrive violently. It creeps in. First comes shivering, then clumsiness, then confusion. Victims may begin making irrational choices, removing clothing, shifting dangerously, even slipping quietly into the water without resistance. To an outside observer, it can look almost peaceful. It is anything but. One of the most overlooked survival errors is failing to organize. When groups of survivors manage to gather onto rafts or debris, the presence or absence of leadership often determines the outcome. Without structure, fear spreads faster. Arguments ignite. Energy is wasted. Morale fractures. But when even one person assumes calm authority, assigning roles, encouraging stillness, focusing attention, survival rates tend to rise dramatically. Order is a powerful defense against despair. Perhaps one of the most psychologically devastating mistakes is surrendering to false timelines. Movies have conditioned us to believe rescue is swift. Distress signals answered within hours. Search planes arriving by sunrise. Reality is less forgiving. The ocean is vast beyond comprehension. Even when rescuers know where to look, reaching survivors can take far longer than anyone hopes. Those who survive tend to adopt a different mindset, one rooted not in expectation, but endurance. They prepare mentally for the possibility of waiting, and in doing so, they outlast those who cannot accept the uncertainty. Then comes thirst. Few forces unravel human judgment faster. After prolonged exposure, the temptation to drink seawater becomes overwhelming. Logic insists it is deadly, but desperation rewrites logic. Salt accelerates dehydration, strains the kidneys, and invites hallucinations that further erode the will to survive. History records countless tragedies that began with a single swallow. Survivors who endure often share one trait: discipline strong enough to resist immediate relief in favor of long-term survival. Another quiet killer is isolation. Humans are not meant to face infinity alone. When survivors drift apart, whether by current, panic, or poor decisions. Their psychological resilience often deteriorates rapidly. Conversation fades, perspective narrows, hope weakens. But those who remain together frequently reinforce one another's will. A shared fight is easier to sustain than a solitary one. Darkness introduces its own dangers. When the sun disappears, orientation vanishes with it. The horizon dissolves. Every sound becomes amplified. Survivors often describe hearing movement beneath them, sensing vastness below, imagining shapes circling in the unseen depths. Whether real or imagined matters very little. Fear drains energy just as surely as cold. Sleep deprivation compounds everything. The body begs for rest, yet true sleep becomes nearly impossible. Those who drift off risk slipping unnoticed into the water. Many are not discovered missing until daylight returns. By the second night, a quieter threat begins to surface. Perspective. The realization that rescue may not be immediate. This is the psychological cliff. The moment when optimism must transform into endurance. Some cannot make that transition. Others do. And it is often that mental pivot that separates survival from tragedy. Yet perhaps the most dangerous mistake of all is losing the will to participate in one's own survival. Veteran rescuers have noted something both haunting and profound. Those who remain mentally engaged, adjusting position, watching the horizon, encouraging others, protecting their limited resources, tend to hold on longer. Survival is rarely about strength alone. It is about continued involvement in the act of staying alive. Eventually, for some, a distant sound breaks the endless rhythm of waves, engines. For others, that sound never comes. The ocean does not choose its outcomes with drama. It is quiet, indifferent, unhurried, which is why the smallest decisions can echo so loudly out there. Stay with what floats. Conserve energy. Protect heat. Resist panic. Endure uncertainty. Because when disaster strikes at sea, survival is not decided by the moment a ship sinks. It is decided by what happens next, and by the mistakes you refuse to make. At sea, survival is never luck. It is behavior.